We'll swap that over there. This time we're actually on time. Look at us go.
7:30 it is.
Okay, killing it. Just killing it.
I just responded to someone who wanted a link.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
That's excellent.
It is.
Well, what would people want to link for to this? They don't watch us? Surely not.
What were the views from last week? 600 or 700?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked. I've been too busy doing shit to be looking at, you know. Where do I? Now I'm just going to change the settings on this like usual. Edit privacy. Public. Done. I'm sure there's a better way to do it. I just haven't time to figure it out. You know. Oh, yeah, let's go back over here. That should be public now.
7:30 it is.
Okay. Turn that down because we don't want to listen to ourselves, but just allow us to know that we're on and live and ready to rock and roll.
All right. G'day.
Kick off.
Kick off again.
Then Spin Doctors, episode 2, season 2.
That's
Still cracking,
cool,
still going, yeah.
Much to the chagrin of some.
I reckon there's a few people absolutely spewing.
Yes, they've done everything in their power to try and suppress any, not dissent.
Oh, they don't like dissent. They definitely don't like
opinion.
dissent. Absolutely.
Alternative opinion.
Absolutely. And
It's certainly not dissent because it's just an alternative opinion.
well, with you, it's an alternative opinion. Mine's outright dissent. Fuck them.
Okay, let's kick off.
I've got no issues with that.
Welcome to Data Nerve Spin Doctors, Thursday night, 7:30. My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a counsellor on Temora Shire Council, but the views I express here are mine and mine alone, and not those of Temora Shire Council.
And I'm Dean McRae, and I thought all my views were only my own, but based on some results in America recently, apparently they're far more widely held views than I realised.
Well, you might be sharing views.
I'm sharing views, certainly not on all views, but certainly in a hell of a lot of views. But
so
I am
your
Dean
views
McRae.
are your own, but some other people are sharing.
Mine are my own. Some are
views.
sharing similar views. A lot of them, it seems.
Yes.
But my views are my own, not owned, can't be owned. Exactly what I say is what I think, and that's the beauty of it. You can disagree with me all you like. I'm more than happy for you to disagree with me. I'm even happy if you don't like me. I really don't care that much. But you know that what you see is what you get. And, of course, we have to do that at the start of every program because in this day and age, if we don't do that shit, he gets another code of conduct and we end up with hurt feelings.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I say that or whether I don't, I get a code of conduct.
Yeah. Look, but, it's a little bum covering exercise just to be very, very clear that he's his own man. And when he speaks on this, that even though he's a Shire councillor, he is speaking on behalf of a valid and free citizen of a country that is not yet full communist China.
Well, supposedly, apparently, allegedly, allegedly, there's something in the Australian Constitution that enshrines the freedom of political expression.
Yes, but free speech is not enshrined, and there is a difference. You see,
because I'm a counsellor, I'm able to speak my mind freely on a range of subjects.
Oh, look, and because I have a mouth. I am capable of speaking my mind freely, and I can give two shits what they have to say. Anyway,
and look, I say you've ran in. I'm pretty sure that you could claim freedom of political expression.
Oh God, yeah, no doubt. So will, whatever,
and that is probably the biggest gap in Australia. Australia's got a couple of gaps in their constitution, but that's one of them that the Yanks actually.
The Yanks have and the reason they're so in love with their constitution is because it is quite powerful and it is quite it's a well-rounded document, and the guys who started with, they call them the founding fathers over there, and they put a lot of thought into it, and they have put a lot of stuff in there. I think because they come out of the oppressive British regime and everything that went on there, their first government was designed to tell the British government to bash off.
Yeah, and we want to do it properly.
That was how we're going to build this society. We don't need you masters, overlords drilling into us. So the Constitution of America wasn't designed to restrain the citizens in any way, shape or form. It was 100% designed to restrain these political wankers and limit how much power these clowns have. And ours, on the other hand, was sort of somewhat inherited from the Brits, where being subservient little slaves is kind of built in with the whole royal family and traditions.
And the fact that we're all a bunch of convicts anyway.
There's that element,
in Australia.
Yeah, of
course. So if we mucked up, they'd send us to, I don't know, Antarctica.
Antarctica, where maybe I'm sure there's a few that'd love to send you and I to Antarctica about now, but
That's okay.
unfortunately
We'd
for them,
get on with the seals and the polar bears. And
we'd have a
oh,
good
there's
time.
no polar bears in Antarctica. They're in the Arctic.
Oh, is that what they are?
There's seals and penguins and stuff in Antarctica.
You can eat them, so that'll be fine. We won't starve.
We'll fish together. It'll be right.
It'll be all right. So, look, let's. I guess we'll do it slightly different this week, just because you haven't had a council meeting of any significant
And there's
description.
been nothing.
There's been nothing dramatic.
There's been nothing. Look, there's been a couple of little things that are sort of simmering away, but there's been nothing that's boiled over on the stove this week. So, I don't see. And look, you might pick it up in my voice. It's a little bit raspy. I've had a massive week, and I won't say I'm cooked because I've got a fair bit in front of me, but I'm just bashed up a bit.
Yeah, bit worn out. Bit
Had a crooked knee.
Yeah, right.
Bursitis.
That's from kicking too many people in the ass.
No,
that's what does
It's
that.
called bursitis. So
Yeah, right.
I had that, and then that's just sort of put a bit of poison into the system. I've got a bit of there's no pain so much, but the voice is a bit doughy. Fairly tired because I've been working pretty hard in the extreme heat.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who've been working pretty hard in extreme heat, and I think a lot of people are probably feeling that little bit flat.
Yeah, so
we are having a global warming heat wave across Australia where we're all going to die.
I'm not super bouncy in that respect, but how did you go with your homework?
No, bugger all, to be honest with you.
All right, well, just because
I know you're very diligent with that shit.
Well, it piqued some interest in me.
Yeah.
Now, this is from...
Now, kids, when you do not do your homework, don't make up a bullshit story. Just go out and do it.
Yeah. But also, we need to put some context to this. Last week, Dean made the comment that California is allegedly or supposedly one of the higher tax states in the US. They're known for their fairly liberal
and liberal's different in America versus liberal in Australia because everybody's all confused about who's what, where,
we'd
why,
say
when.
Socialist and leftist.
Yeah, I'd call them Marxist pricks, but you know.
Yeah. Now, listen to this. This is from the Tax Foundation of the USA, so it seems to have some credit, at least in the name. California tax rates. How does California's tax code compare? California has a graduated state individual income tax with rates ranging from 1% to a maximum of 13.3%. Right. That's income tax.
Yeah.
There's also a jurisdiction that collects local income taxes. California has an 8.84% corporate income tax rate. Okay. California also has a 7.25% state sales tax, GST. An average combined state and local sales tax rate of 8.85%. They've got a 0.68% property tax rate on owner-occupied housing. They don't have an estate tax or inheritance tax, so if you die, you don't get robbed.
Yet.
Yes.
Give them an opportunity, they'll take it.
They've got tax of 68.1 cents per gallon on gas. Now, how many litres in a US gallon?
Oh, shit. I don't know. We don't do
it.
Let's have a look.
A quick Googs on that, just so we can get some reference to Australia.
How many litres?
In a US gallon?
How many litres in a US gallon? According to Dr. Wikipedia, 3.78.
3.78. So we'll round that up to 4, ballpark. So we've got 68.1 cents per gallon.
Yeah, sure.
On approximately just slightly less than 4 litres of petrol. So we're looking at less than 20 cents a litre of tax on petrol.
Yep.
They've got a $2.87 cigarette excise per packet of 20. Right. Now, Australia has currently got an excise of about $1.36 per stick.
Right, okay.
So 2 smokes in Australia would cover your 20-pack excise in the US.
Okay, yeah.
So our tax excise is 10
in
times.
California, because they sort of run it slightly different, yeah?
Yeah, so that's that.
Yeah.
The state of California collects, on average, 9,000 to $9,229 in state and local tax collections per capita. California's tax system rates 48th overall on the 2025 State Tax Competitiveness Index. So that's the 2025 State Tax Competitive Index. So I imagine if you're 48th out of how many states? 50?
There's 52, I think.
Yes.
Well, not
right
counting Greenland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada.
Yes.
As the numbers going up.
So it appears they're right down the bottom of that list, 48th overall. So they're really, so I'd say their taxes are quite high.
Yes.
But when I hear rates of income tax at a maximum of 13.3% and corporate tax rates of 8.84%, I want to move there.
Yeah.
Because the rates here, I think the average Australian, I think you're on 30 cents in the dollar minimum.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Anyone earning anything approaching the average wage.
Yeah.
The corporate tax rate here, I think, is 25 cents in the dollar, if not 30. I think it might be 30.
I did an interview, sit down, one of those type of capers, with a fella in America, Adam Kokesh. So some people who are, I guess, in the libertarian space will know Adam. He wrote a book. He actually got quite famous for being arrested for dancing in a no dancing zone.
Now, who had the no dancing zone? And I'm already stuck at that.
What's that?
I'm stuck at the no dancing.
The no dancing zone. There was a no dancing zone at whatever place in America. You can YouTube Adam Kokesh, Kokesh, sorry.
Just for clarity,
Yep.
30% is the current Australian corporate tax rate. The Californian corporate tax rate is 8.84.
So we are more communist here than there. Fantastic.
By
far.
The length of the straight and around the corner and halfway down the back straight, I would say.
So to all the people who espouse that certainly locally and nationally that they have wet dreams about being some sort of conservatives, if you're not spewing at the tax rate, you're full of shit. Just saying.
So anyway, Adam Kokesh.
Adam got done dancing, no zone. So he's been on Rogan. He was on one of the early Rogan episodes. So he's kind of, he made an impact.
YouTube famous.
He was a veteran. Yeah, like us. YouTube famous for sure. Oh, if you're getting on Rogan, like it was in the early days, I think they pulled his interview at some stage because I think it was in those early days where...
I've watched a lot of his videos. Does that count?
Who's that? Rogan's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind Rogan. I haven't been on there yet. I'm waiting for my call.
That's what I'm saying.
The call-up's going to come.
I think there's a difference between watching a lot of his videos and actually getting invited.
Well, Kokesh was invited and went on there and they did a full interview. And I went on Adam's show. He has a YouTube thing, Adam versus the Man, I think it's called. Anyway, I went on there during COVID period and we're talking about what a complete fucking debacle Australia was during COVID. And we actually went through the 10-point Communist Manifesto, just trying to work out which was worse, America or Australia. And I think by the time we were done doing our comparison, we were at 9.5% of or 9.5 points, and America was only at 9. So they're a little less socialist, communist shit.
Australians will sit here and say that we follow America, but I'm telling you, I'd like to follow America with some of those tax rates.
Absolutely, by sounds of it, hell yeah.
Yeah, they tend to have a lot more personal freedom over there, and they protect it tooth and nail. Australians are so submissive, and they really don't want to rock the boat, and they can't be bothered. They're very laconic. They're very, it'll be right, she'll be right. Oh, yeah, that's
and
enough.
They would never do that to hurt us, and they would never, they've got our best interests at heart.
And that's completely false.
That's completely false. They are completely
on
corrupt.
that note, you'll be pleased to know that you've just taken a stake in Rex Airlines today.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
Oh, goody.
So did I, and so did everyone else watching.
Did we? Yeah,
apparently, Albo's committed $50 million.
Oh, goody. To throwing money at another shit airline.
Now, apparently, Rex Airlines is $500 million in the hole.
So rather than going, you get to die now, that's what happens. And that would happen to Irvine Science. If Irvine Science was $500 million in the hole, I can't imagine Albo's going to walk up and go, here's a check, pal.
What crosses my mind in this context is, are we doing too well? Should we be going broke?
Yes.
And,
we should.
Getting grants and being suckling on the tit of the state and
the imaginary taxpayer and
just getting grants for this and grants for that and grants for something else, and then getting another grant because we can't, trade through. And
Yeah, no, I oppose all government handouts, a whole lot. Get rid of the
Well-
lot. And I know that's extreme, and people go, oh, you're a bit harsh, whatever. Oppose them all.
Yes.
And when you got these people go, well, stop, green subsidies. No, I want to stop all of them.
Yes.
I'm all for stopping fossil fuel subsidies as well. And whoever produces the cheapest, most reliable, most efficient power wins. And I can give a rat's ass about whether your windmill, if the windmill wins based on no subsidies, it's a better product, cheaper product, gives power all day round, and we've got cheapest electricity in the country or in the planet, on the planet. How was that for English? I'm quite happy. I'll put a windmill on my damn house. But at the moment, with all these subsidies, you've got government picking winners. They're directing money towards certain projects.
That's the thing that really concerns me.
Doesn't concern me. It pisses me right off because you got some dead shit like Albo and Chris Bowen.
No, but not
Chris
only
Bowen,
vested interests, and you've
absolutely,
got so many lobbyists and so many vested interests, and they are
on both sides of the aisle.
Oh,
and this is
no, we're talking politicians.
Yes,
across the board.
Both sides of the aisle, politicians are owned, bought, and paid for. Anybody who thinks they're not, that goes down to local ones as well. There's vested interest from local all the way up.
Oh, do
not think for 1 minute that all these people aren't getting some sort of benefit from somebody. The difference is some of them are a little bit more honest about who's paying their wage on the back end and who's not. That's the only difference. And I know we're gearing up for a federal election because I know this because my phone started ringing this week.
Well, I know this because Albo just bought $50 million worth of Rex debt.
Yes.
And Albo, on a normal day-to-day, could not give a flying...
Unless he's in the lounge.
He could not... He doesn't come over the Blue Mountains.
No.
You know, Albo is very much a... Well, he does come over the Blue Mountains. Sorry, I apologise. He comes to Canberra. But that's like another planet.
Canberra's a bubble. It might as well be getting on one of Elon's spaceships.
So Canberra, Sydney or Melbourne, Brisbane, that just about pulls Albo up.
Yeah.
If he can dominate in those spaces, he doesn't need to talk to the rest of us. How many times have we said on this show that one of the biggest issues that people out in regional Australia face is the fact that 87% of Australia's population live within 50 k's of the coast.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter.
There's no reflection. We don't get to say we're not important.
It doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what we do. We get dictated to by a bunch of wankers who've got absolutely no concept of what it takes to be a day-to-day operator out in these spaces.
Absolutely, not a clue. And Albo's as deluded as the rest of them. Chris Bowen is possibly the biggest spaz on planet Earth.
Yeah.
If you watch his tweets, if you listen to him talk,
but he's very much of a collective.
He is owned by the ownership. He's terrible. He's possibly one of the worst we've got. And then I've got all these people now reaching out going, oh, but it's all right. Dutton's going to follow Trump's lead. Dutton couldn't tie Trump's boots. No. And I made it very clear on a lot of these programs and on the radio show beforehand.
It's Dutton dressed up as lame.
Dutton's a sped too.
No, he is. He's
just look, at the end of the day, he's a cop, and he's not necessarily the type of cop I want in charge of the country because he's absolutely against free speech. He's against...
Yes, he's totally in control.
It's all about what he can control.
Yes.
And as we've said a million times, there are some great cops getting out there who just literally want to keep people safe and make sure people are all right, and they're spot on. Love them to bits. And then you got the ones who were there because probably got beat up at school or whatever the hell went on, and they got a bit of a power trip. And, I'll tell you, and don't you, who do you think you are? And I'm so-and-so. And you just go, listen, I'm nuts. They're the sort that end up your Peter Duttons in politics. And
look, I'm telling you, there's, even from that perspective, there was an incident in Newtown overnight, or I think it was overnight. 3 guys were having an argument or a bit of an altercation in the street. 2 off-duty coppers, young fellas, 2 fellas, intervened. They got the absolute shit kicked out of them. One of them's in a very bad way.
Yeah, right.
So we're at that point now in Australia where people are sort of disrespecting the police to that extent.
Well, and sadly, some of this is brought on by themselves. I know in the inner cities what went on during COVID increased the amount of people who went, nah, bugger off. All you guys are is essentially the military arm for dickheads like Chris Minns or Dom Perrottet or Gladys Berejiklian or Dan Andrews. And if you're going to be nothing but the military arm for them, you can bugger off. Yeah. They lost a ton of respect around this country during that period because they were heavy-handed on people who were protesting something that was very justified in protesting. And even the people who protest shit that I disagree with, they should still be allowed to come out and protest. Don't break shit. Don't throw you. Don't vandalise shit.
Don't upset someone else.
But if you want to come out with your placard and go, oh, I think there should be 50 genders, I'm probably going to think you're a dickhead, but I'm going to support your right to stand there with your flag. If you it doesn't matter what it is. Like if you want to protest Australia Day, I'm a big proponent. Love Australia Day. I think it's great. I'm all for keeping it on January 26th. I make no bones about it at all. But the people who go, well, we really don't like this, we want to protest against it, they should be absolutely free to protest against that. I have no problem with it whatsoever.
Do you have any, back on that Australia Day thing, do you have any room in your considerations for the fact that some of the Indigenous people may feel that celebrating the day that it's a day that
I can see why some people don't like it, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at them for not liking it. But then I'm also not going to, I have no room in me to go, I'm going to apologise for something that I had no part in. I'm certainly not going to be apologising to people who were not there and they weren't direct victims of it. A lot of what's gone on since is very sad in a lot of ways. I've met Warren Mundine a few times now and spoken to him about it. And obviously he's just an interesting character.
You mentioned that name.
Yeah.
Warren Mundine missed out on pre-selection.
Missed out on the Liberal Party pre-selection, which, to be fair, I don't think it's a bad thing. Because
no, but is that a fallout from the voice stuff?
Look, he's probably a higher profile candidate than the one that they had. I like him as a guy. I can say comfortably that I like him as a guy. I can also say that when he talks about his family background and how they started paying, and his terms were, they started paying blackfellas to take sit-down money. They destroyed our entire culture. They destroyed any chance we had. This was, not verbatim, but his words were, they destroyed the Aboriginal people when they started paying them to stay at home. Because what the hell else are they going to do? They're a pocket full of cash. No different to when, rugby league players and athletes, just on a different scale. If you give athletes who may or may not be highly intelligent, some are quite intelligent, some are not, but you give them a shit ton of dollars and say your only job is to play footy on Saturday and and through the week you've got to go to training for 2 hours a day, the hell else are they going to do? They've got a ton of money and they've got all the time in the world on their hands. They're going to get in strife. That's what's going to happen. And Warren Mundine is of the opinion that it was when they started paying black fellas to stay at home. No, we don't want you to work, but we're going to give you money anyway. That's the sit-down money. There's the incentive. That's when the trouble escalates, elevates, gets worse and worse and out of control. Because what are you going to do? You're going to buy a carton of beer because you've got money and you don't know where you need to be. And it's going to deteriorate. And then, okay, maybe the beer's not your thing. Maybe this is when the drugs come into it. Maybe the drugs are cheaper. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, it's a fair point from Mundine. I don't think he's I don't know politically whether he's much good overall, but I certainly agree with him on an awful lot of stuff. I don't think Australia has somebody to come in, and I don't
there's a gamut of opinions on the black side of the equation, as vast as there is a gamut of opinions on the white side of the equation, isn't it?
Of course, as there should be.
There's militant, radical black people who want to basically...
My girlfriend Lydia, she's off her chops.
Yeah.
But I actually respond. She's actually, and this, I know some people get really upset when I say it. I respect her. People, what? Where is she fucking around? She says she's one of the few people in Parliament who actually believes her bullshit.
Yes.
Dutton had sell his mother. Morrison sold his mother and grandmother.
Albo just gets up in the morning and says, what do I do today?
What do I have to do to stay elected?
Yes.
Lydia Thorpe, as big a lunatic as she is, believes every bit of bullshit that spouts out of her mouth.
Yes.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, as much as I disagree with her, she believes it. So I've got to respect her for having the courage of her convictions, even though I think convictions are wrong in a lot of cases. you know, and that's where this whole it used to be right and left, now it's authoritarian versus everybody else. But a lot of this stuff, in my opinion, they try to bundle into, well, white people all think this and all black people think this. And it's bullshit.
No, that was the point I was making.
It's all bullshit.
The range of opinions from the black fellas is as wide and
the worst thing
the
worst part of all that, from my opinion, is when people go, you know, what Joe Biden say, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Yeah.
You racist old prick. Yeah. You know, there are plenty of black people think you're a dickhead.
Yes.
And they're entitled to think you're a dickhead regardless of the colour of their skin, you spaz.
Yes.
You know, there are gay people you'd be highly surprised that didn't support gay marriage.
Yes.
There are gay people who don't like transgender people wiggling their tackle in front of children. There's plenty of people who don't just fit a stereotype because they can be a gay person and not necessarily like all the hoo-ha and hullabaloo and bullshit that goes with it.
Yes.
I've got a gay mate I used to cook with.
Yeah.
And he actually, when I was in London all them years ago, he came out. We didn't realise he was a good-looking dude.
Yeah.
All those years we went through TAFE together. None of us really knew what chicks throwing themselves at him, you know. I'd be happy to take his scraps every weekend,
yes.
and you know, that type of shit. And we'd be running around, and it just never made sense to anybody. We just thought he was super shy, and he was never shy with us. But anyway, by the time I got back from a couple of years in London, he sort of, just so you know, I've come out. And I think, what are you fucking talking about, mate? Oh, shit, well, that explains a lot, dude, you know? Like, and anyway, we had a bit of a yak about it, and I took piss out of him on a few things because we're still mates, and I couldn't give a shit. But he lost his shit there one night while we were talking because he can't stand all that stuff. You know, just because I'm a gay bloke doesn't mean I need to have a rainbow flag. It doesn't mean I've got to run around the streets in my fucking undies. Yeah. It doesn't mean I've got to carry on like an idiot. Yeah. These people do my head in because I've got to justify this shit.
It's fairly akin to that Ian Roberts approach when he was one of the hardest blokes playing rugby league at the time.
Absolutely.
But then he still came out.
He came out, and let's be fair, he's tough enough to do so. Gary Jack found that out. But in saying that, Ian Roberts has now gone down this woke path where he wants everybody to be, you know, if you're a gay rugby, you should come out. Why? When are you playing football? Yeah. I don't want to know who you're banging on the weekend. That's none of my business. If I like the team you're playing for and you're a good player, I'm going to, yeah, great job. You know, they sort of seem to want to bubble everybody into these little identity bubbles.
Well, they basically piggyback their cause onto someone, and they hitch their wagon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they just see them as a bit of a mule for their project. So that's a little bit inconsiderate to my mind. His story is his story, and he needs to.
And it's great if there are gay footy players who want to go, I'd love to come out. I really think I should. Hey, Ian, would you support me? Yes. I reckon he would. Yeah. But he shouldn't be there going, well, you need to come out, otherwise you're letting the gay community down. Yeah. Fuck off, Ian. Yeah. You know, and if you don't want it, you don't have to. Yes. And if you want to, again, if you're a black fella, you don't have to like the Aboriginal flag, and you don't have to hate the 26th of January. You can quite comfortably go, well, some foul shit happened while this country was being built. And yes, Aboriginal people were pretty harshly displaced for sure, but there's no law now currently that discriminates against Indigenous people that I'm aware of. It's no different to this alleged gender pay gap. Now, I know we've got 85. I know Trump solved that. It's only 2 now. Yes. But we had 85 genders. And if women got paid less than men, as they say, no company on the fucking planet would hire a bloke. Yes. They'd simply just hire women. Yeah. It'd be cheaper. Yeah. You know, these capitalist bastards will only hire women if they're cheaper. If you can do the same job.
The China one-child policy.
It's just these things are just so stupid. And to think that it's a good idea for everybody to be bundled into little groups based on this little club. You know, do I need to be a transgendered, one-legged Aboriginal woman of whatever to be a valid individual? You know what I mean? Like how far down that bullshit merry-go-round, same thing. You know, do people want to go?
And I think the test always is to how much value do you place in someone else's rights?
Well,
and
you have the right, if you came out now and said, look, I've decided I'm a transgendered person. I go, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm.
Now, that's not really going to change when I'm going to sit here and talk to you, but I don't care.
Yes.
And I'm not going to change anything about my day to appease that. And I've actually, if you want to go back through some of the old YouTube interviews I did, I've myself, my lawyer, Kyle Katazi, did an interview with a transgendered gentleman, woman, whatever, so male to female, named Dana Pham. If you want to check Dana's stuff out on the internet, Dana is Mickey Mouse top shelf, A-grade human. I have all the time in the world for Dana. Kyle found it very hard to refer to Dana as a she.
Yes.
Because he's a very, very committed Christian kind of guy and lives his principles. Hence, he and I can get along quite well, as different as we are in religion, but we both know where we stand on stuff. So, and Dana too was accepting of his inability to go down there.
Back to that point again, Kyle would find comfort in the fact that even though you obviously don't agree with his point of view, you support the fact that he is allowed to express it.
Absolutely, and encourage him to express it, you know. And Dana, on the other hand, sat in this interview.
Yeah, and that's the difference. That's where Kyle needs to take that next step.
Well, he doesn't need to, but if he chooses to, that's fine.
Well, I just in his
you know,
if he wants to, well,
Dana, for example,
he's going to be in a situation. If he won't tolerate others, then how does he expect to be tolerated?
I don't think he gives a shit whether he's tolerated, probably to the degree that I don't give a shit whether I'm tolerated. I exist, and you can either interact.
No, but if you demand rights, then you've got to afford those rights to other individuals.
Oh, and he's not taking anyone's right. He's just not. I'm not going to play. His argument is I'm not playing pretend with you. Now, as far as I know, Dana had the surgery, which that's some brave shit.
Yeah,
you're going to do that. That's. And I met Dana at a thing called the Friedman Conference, 2016, 2017. And I didn't, hey, how you going? I met 1,000 people that weekend. And this Dana was just really, really cool. Hey, how you going? Quirky, unusual. And I'm like, yeah, something going on there. But for Dana, which is a perfect, and I might even invite her on here at some stage because she's cool.
That's the whole thing, isn't it?
I treat people as they treat me. You come at me like a prick, I'll come at you like a bat of hell. I don't care.
And you learn a lot by talking to people who've had this adversity or these other
different challenges. I've had challenges. Yours are different to mine. Yeah. For this particular Dana, and at that weekend at Friedman, I must have come away with another 100 Facebooky type friends because you meet all these people and where can we keep up with you? And that was, that was sort of how you did it. And this was this unique person. And then I sort of, you're checking all these people out while you're on the thing and go, oh, yeah, what's this person about? I met, that's where I met Mark Latham in person for the first time, and we got to know each other, things like that, And Dana's massive contradiction is she is a transgendered of Asian descent.
Yeah.
Is involved in the military. I'm not going to go into too much detail there because I don't classify whatever. But is involved in the military. I can't imagine it's on the front lines or anything, but a conservative, Christian, anti-abortion activist. Now that's a hell of a contradiction for one human in one little human being. If you're going to be a transgendered person, you're supposed to tick the pro-abortion, abortion should be birth control type shit, which I think is a disgusting level. I can pair back to medical abortions and stuff like that in my head. I can go, okay, I've got to live with a certain amount of that. As far as this, full-term abortion and Sheila's running around with, I've had 24 abortions on a T-shirt. I think they should all be bloody, I won't say, belted because somebody get out of line on that one.
But that's just an abuse of the state of the medical care that we enjoy, and
it's
almost
another bastardisation of the whole show.
And it's almost disgusting to think that someone's sitting there with a bung knee in agony and can't get in because the medical system is bogged up with
some idiot that can't be bothered to bag it up, and
you know what I mean. Like
it's a crazy world with shit like that.
And that's probably the thing about the world that is so hard to reconcile is the massive excess in some areas and the massive pain in other areas. You know, the way things are trending in Australia today with cost of living, things are really starting to bite.
Yeah.
And then you've got people who.
Mate, I can see that on the car yard every day.
Yeah.
You know, I've got two types of customers really. One type are the ones who come in and money isn't an issue at all. Get me what I want to get. How quickly can you get it to me?
Yeah, and I want it in this colour.
And I want it in this colour, and I want to do this to it, and I want to do that to it, and fair play to them. And then I've got the others who are coming in going, what's the cheapest thing you've got? I need a car, and I've got no money.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fairly common paradigm of what's going on, you know.
I read a article in the news today that the in the ag sector, sales in a lot of areas are down 25-30%. A lot of that's due to all of the demand, the excess demand that was brought forward from incentive programs. And this is back to where we are with this government intervention. You know, Albo buying $50 million worth of Rex debt. It's another intervention. It distorts the market. It doesn't allow the market to behave as a market.
Yeah.
And it creates this dependence.
Yes. Because dependence is a big part of all this. Everything is geared towards us being dependent on them. Yeah, that's how they exist.
So the ag sector sold a shit ton less tractors and a shit ton less headers and a shit ton less this and that in the last 12 months. A lot of that's because they just had 3 boom years.
Yeah.
When all of the demand was brought forward by government policy where you had the instant asset write-off, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So anyone who's been in any sort of an industry for any period of time knows that there's X amount of transactions over a 5-year period, roughly.
Yep.
So if you want to pull forward 3 years worth of transactions into 1 year, then you've got to spread 2 years worth of transactions out over the remaining 4.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, within.
Yeah. Of course. So the variable.
But none of this government policy seems to cater to that. It's a bit like here we are in the train wreck of an economy now with the aftermath of the COVID confetti gun. Well, the money gun that they'll just go push, push, push. Like
I spoke to a truck driver the other day.
Yeah.
Owned a freight company over in Wagga.
Yeah.
Interesting fella. You know, because I've sort of dabbled in the freight game a little bit now. And we were just talking about comparing notes and all this. At the start of COVID, he had 24 trucks. And now he's got 3.
Yeah, right.
And I said to him, well, doesn't that seems a bit counterproductive? Because freight to me seems like a good gig with all that shit in mind. Because everybody's getting stuff at home. He said, it wasn't the trucks and it wasn't the lack of work. I couldn't get anybody to get off their ass and come and work for what I was offering to pay.
Yes. Relative
to stay at home and get that government cash.
But not even the stay at home. It's just now they're in an absolute accelerated. I've heard a couple of different things. They're talking about, geez, if you want to make a big quid, be a train driver in Sydney.
Yep.
If you want to be that's no different to what the coppers have got. And then the psychiatrists recently have walked out of a lot of state government facilities because they're demanding higher wages, and everyone's basically demanding higher wages because even people on good money are going backwards fast.
Of course. And here's where I think, and again, there's going to be some people who watch this who go, Dean's mad and he's wrong, because it's always been done this way and blah, 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 blah. Then there's going to be a few people who go, hang on, he might just be crazy enough to solve this shit. Forget about asking for higher wages, work out how to cut the cost of living. And the easiest way to do that is for these arseholes in government to one, look, if Trump turns around and does what he's whispering about, and the murmurs are that he's going to, abolish the income tax. If he does that, you watch the American economy skyrocket. Now,
but as a human, what do you need? You need shelter, you need food, and you need energy.
Absolutely.
Now, at the moment, shelter is basically unobtainium.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. If you're a young person, you can't buy your own shelter. So you have to pay.
Well, that's right. We're going to import a whole bunch of people from overseas, and they're going to need places to live too.
But you can't buy into that market.
Not a hope.
Energy's through
the roof.
You
can now, because Albo's created a plan where you can be in business with the government, the bank, and you. I wonder who's the inferior partner there? Who's the partner that's going to get bullied when it all goes pear-shaped? It's not going to be fucking the bank or the government.
Well, it's socialism. It's quasi. It's partial.
It is socialism. Yeah. Not even quasi. It's
No, but
outright social.
It's like
policy.
social housing, but staged social housing.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, you're not full on houso in the.
Yeah, no, you're a homeowner right up until we decide to take it off you.
Yeah, and you can have 5%.
Yeah,
and you can pay for the rest of your life into this, and we'll get paid. And
when you die, don't worry about your parents, your kids owning, because we'll claim that back, and then we'll do it to the next poor silly bugger that comes
it's
along.
Slavery.
It is slavery. It's indentured slavery. Absolutely.
Back to that.
Sorry.
Back to the point you're making. If you want a contented and compliant and relatively satisfied populace, they need housing.
Yeah.
The stress that just uncertainty in that space causes people is real. And there's been a lot of studies done even about your prospects. If you reach retirement and you own your own home or you're still in a rental, what your life expectancy is and all these other things.
Yeah.
Energy is just through the roof.
Yeah.
So fuel in your car, gas, electricity are just rampant. And then what else do you need?
Your food and water's going up.
Yeah.
You know, like
so you're just on an absolute, and this is back to your mate, the truckie. There's a lot of people in Australia can't afford to do a job for $25 or $30 an hour.
That's a part of it.
Yes.
Minimum wage is sort of to a degree.
So they might not be sitting at home on their ass. They're looking for a job that pays $45 or $50 an hour because they can't live on $30 an hour.
No, and the only way to bring all of that back down into some sort of equilibrium isn't raising wages because they've got to come from somewhere.
Yes.
And then you're just feeding back into.
Yeah, so it becomes a feedback loop.
Of course, it's a feedback loop.
Yeah.
So if he turns around and goes, righto, I can now pay a truck driver $50 an hour.
Yeah.
I know you understand it, but we're doing this for them as well. You know, pay a truckie $50 an hour, for example, or a courier $50 an hour, and it goes on to the price of your parcel. So next time you're paying for your freight, you know, instead of
$15
paying, it's 15 instead of 10, it's 20 instead of 10, whatever the case may be. Because then you got to pay that, and then you're sitting there, shit, this is all getting expensive.
Well,
I've got to go and get another job.
I'm running a business. I've got to pass this on.
Got to pass it on.
And you pass that freight
on. You as the customer, you're sitting there going, oh, well, hang on, we better go and get a second job, or the wife's got to go out and work, or whatever the combination is. And then you've got that splinter in the family that comes when everybody's working.
That's exactly right.
I've tunneled this whole show.
I'm old enough to have lived in the era of the stay-at-home mum.
Yep.
But my mum wasn't able to be a complete stay-at-home mum.
Yes.
Well,
my old man had it so that, and a lot of people know the old man. Nobody's ever going to call him lazy. But I remember him as a kid. He had 3 jobs because for him, it was all about mum being able to be a stay-at-home mum. Mum shouldn't have to work. We got 3 kids for her to look after. I need to figure out how to pay for it. Yeah. And when Paragon Mines, he went out and did that. Then he was, of course, BP Charlie. And then he had his job in RCC, which transferred over to the Temora Shire Council and all that sort of shit. He had to work 3 jobs because he felt like he had to do it to keep mum at home. Yeah. And that was that sort of trade-off. That's probably the most important job in the world, is having a
back in the day,
good, solid stay-at-home mum.
But then you could get away with that with 1 car.
Get away with it with 1 car, 1 income. Yeah. And you could buy a house. Yeah. You could get into a home.
Yeah, when you talk about the rates of pay, they were minute.
Yeah.
But you also look at what that minute amount of money bought you.
Of course.
And relatively, it bought you a shit ton more.
Hell of a lot more.
Yeah. And I think people have just got, I think we're at the point now, and it hasn't really hit here, but it's certainly hitting around the globe. It's starting to hit here.
People are starting to work out that realistically they're essentially glorified slaves. And, you look at the cost of fuel. I think last time I checked, which was probably last year.
As a baby boomer, how rich do you feel when your house is worth $1 million when you've got 4 kids? And they can't buy one.
They can't afford one. They can't get into one unless daddy sponsors them into
Whereas
it.
you'd be way better off if your house was worth $400,000 and all your kids were paying
money. A little part of my brain is very tempted to go down and get my house valued. Just to see what sort of absolute farcical number we get off it.
Oh, no, it would be absurd.
It'd be an absurd number relative to... And I know what Dad bought it for originally when he first bought it, and then I bought him out. So despite some rumours that I was given it. I bought the fucking house.
You've got the mortgage to prove it.
I've got the mortgage to prove it and the payments to prove it.
That's what I'm saying.
It just so happened that I had access to it, and I decided to buy it. So.
You don't get a mortgage without payments these days.
No, I'd love one.
Yeah.
But look, you look at all these things, and it all starts with cutting the size of government. And Argentina's had its first surplus in 30 years, 40 years, something.
Some of the largesse that we enjoy, the absolute excess, it is just off the charts, and someone has to pick up the tab.
It's going to come crashing down. Argentina has, and again, my mate Javier Milei,
he slashed inflation.
He slashed everything. He came out. He ran an election campaign, and he said, "You vote me in. There will be 2 or 3 years of pain. Yeah. It's going to hurt, but I will fix this country." Yeah. And they voted him in. He didn't lie to them. He didn't come in, and that's where most of these politicians come unstuck, is they bullshit their way into it, thinking that I'm going to sell you a dream, and then if I fail, it doesn't matter because I got my 400 grand a year. He slashed all the stupid, useless bureaucracy. He made a heap of bureaucrats unemployed, which, you know what? Bit sad, sure, but really, if you're going to fix a country, you got to start with that sort of shit.
Look, I've got a list of bureaucrats.
Oh, me too. Me too. And not all of them are bad people. Don't get me wrong.
People they're just an absolute waste of
They serve no purpose.
No, they're negative.
Yep.
They serve a negative purpose. They just take up space.
What are you here for?
They impede the sensible progress of a nation.
Absolutely. And Javier and Argentina are proof of that at the moment. Trump's walked in day one.
Yes.
And I think the first thing that happened was the diversity, equity, and inclusion website crashed.
Yes.
Elon turned it off, and all those staff were told, "You can go home. You'll be paid for now, but there's no more. This department doesn't exist. Yeah. Start looking for new jobs. We'll pay you for whatever time is, but bye. Yeah. Diversity, equity, and inclusion departments. Fuck off.
Yes.
That's gone.
We can't afford you.
We're not paying for you.
Yeah,
it's a bullshit. It's a bullshit department. Yeah. There is no need for you. You serve no genuine purpose on your bike." Yes. And they're starting to work their way through all of this complete farcical government waste paid for by the taxpayers. Yes. And even if it's, it's off our back. You've got to work to pay all this shit. And then you're trying to justify why some idiots in there advocating for, whether or not, you should be able to be a black lesbian.
We spoke about the mayor's comments in the Temora Independent last week where, Temora Shire Council shouldn't be expected to fund the fireworks.
I agree wholeheartedly.
He's making these big claims that he hasn't got any money and it's all very, very tight. He's still got plenty of money for codes of conduct.
Yes, yeah.
So
I agree with him on the Temora Shire Council shouldn't be paying for fireworks. There's plenty of other we disagree on, but then again, you look at if Trump does 3/4 of what he said he's done, and he's walked in there 100 miles an hour. Pulled them out of the WHO, World Health Organization, biggest waste of money on the planet.
Yes.
We should follow suit. World Health Organization's a communist shithole who I don't think they've ever saved a life, to be honest, and they've probably killed more people than they've saved. I'll probably get sued for that, but anyway, up your bum.
Well, and in what context? Like I say,
they do nothing, they achieve nothing.
In terms of suing you for what you just said.
Oh, the feelings will be hurt. Something.
But they're going to have to,
But you look at, they looked at the price. America's been paying for that shit. China's, I think the number was 29 million or billion, whatever it was that China throws at it relative to the population, and the US is at 300 billion or whatever the number it was. It was just so disproportionate. And Trump just went no, and they went, "Oh, well, what if we give you a discount?" No, I'm not paying for your shit.
Yes.
Buy Paris Accord. And let's all sing Kumbaya and go, the world's going to end because of global warming. We need to reduce emissions. Bye. We're out of that too. See ya.
I had the same conversation with a supplier of mine just this week.
Yep.
I don't know if you're familiar with the market of industrial gases, but for a long period of time, there's been very few players in the space, and they've always made significant profits out of bottle rental.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's been some disruptors who've entered the market in recent years who've said, no, we'll sell you your bottle and then we'll just sell you the refill.
Yep.
So you just bring your bottle back and we'll sell you another bottle, but you own the bottle.
Yep.
I just got a quote the other day and I can buy the bottle outright for about 20% less then this other company's been charging me
rental
per year rental.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's a reason Blockbuster went broke.
Yeah.
You know, these companies that don't move and they don't I don't know, this is how it'll always be. Blockbuster went broke.
And no, we're back.
Now we're back.
And to be fair, I rang the company and I said, look, I've just got some pricing relative to this, and I'm at the end of the expiration of the current rental agreement I've got with you.
You can have your bottle back.
I'm going to be taking alternative action unless you've got something you can tell me
That's going to make me want to stay.
That's competitive.
Yep.
And they said, no, we haven't. That's the model we run. Okay, well.
Thanks very much. Finish up my contract. I'll have that replaced. No problem at all. You know, like, mate, I'll tell you, it's an interesting time to be alive.
But it's also,
I do feel like.
Don't you think the government is a little bit like that supplier where they
absolutely,
yeah, and people
they're
really
a big, slow-moving, dysfunctional beast.
People need to demand more of them, and they need to question.
Yes,
and they need to break bills apart. They need to say, what's this amount? What's this amount? What's this amount?
I want to see an itemised account for every pen that gets used in council because I've contributed to paying for it.
Yes.
And non-voluntarily, I would add,
yes.
because once I buy a home, I don't need you for anything. You know, well, what about your rubbish? Not my problem. I'm quite happy. Take your bins. You know, everybody should be able to opt in and opt out of various services, and I could quite happily function without it. And if they had any brains, you know, tip fees would be low. People would dump rubbish far less.
Always
there are trade-offs.
There's a great what do they call it? Some sort of an equilibrium, where if your tip fees are too high,
you'll start dumping on the side of the road.
And then you've got to pay your own staff to go and pick it up and take it to the tip.
Sure.
So there's
and that's a good
I'm not
metaphor for
encouraging
life.
civil disobedience, but
I'm encouraging as much civil disobedience as possible.
Well, there's a connection or a similarity you can draw to that with the vape shops and the illicit tobacco trade.
Yep.
They've taxed it to the point where normal law-abiding citizens
are breaking the law
to access an addictive product that they need.
That is technically legal, sort of, when they buy it. So
well, it's technically legal, sort of, if it comes through certain channels, but if it comes through other channels, it's not legal and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but if you're standing there puffing on a cigarette, unless you've got bloody Constable Plod comes up and investigates where you got it from, you know. Like,
unless they want to, if you've got unbranded stuff and it's sitting there and they can't tell, well, then what are they going to do? DNA test it?
Yeah, that's right. How do you prove any of that shit? But,
some sort of a genome. Like I say, the test would be more than the excise. But that's where we're at. We're at the point now where I think the knees are shaking.
But average citizens are breaking the law. Yeah. And they don't see it as breaking the law. They see it as just cutting a corner because I've got to.
Yeah.
And I support you in that.
Yes.
I
think they've taxed it. Well, you've only got to look at those taxes in California.
Self-inflicted problem.
The taxes in California are...
There's a fucking lot of them.
But they're... No. Compared to here.
Well, no, they're just... Listen, if there's one, I'm sitting there going, there's a lot of them.
But there's... The cigarette tax, for example, in California is 10% of what the cigarette tax is in Australia.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And, you know...
And then they're wondering why people are blowing up cigarette shops in Melbourne and gang wars kept breaking out. You know,
I think that's a little bit more to do with the profits that can be made.
Of course, but the illicit trade, and that's caused by, it is a government problem. It's no different to prohibition in the 20s.
That's exactly right.
They've as opposed to outright banning it, they've just taxed it to the point where gangsters are going, there's a hell of a lot of money to be made here. And if we've got to shoot that guy over there to take his shop, well, so be it, we'll have $1 million in the bank next week.
Now,
they do not care.
A little bit of funny aside was the guy that was trying to set fire to a shop and set fire to himself. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
There was a video going around this week of a guy rolling around on the footpath screaming and yelling and carrying on because he was trying to set fire to a shop and he got up the accelerator all over him and lit himself up. So,
well, there's a price for being completely lacking in competence. Yeah. So, Biden's pardons. Did you see them? What do you reckon?
They were just they were the
are we not live there? What's there? Are we back?
Yeah,
Bit hard to tell there, sort of cutting in and out.
the corruption, the level of corruption.
I'm going to pardon my entire family because they didn't do anything wrong.
And I'm going to pardon Fauci, even though he's done nothing
He
wrong. But
he was going to be my next one. Now, Rand Paul, who was one of my favourite US politicians, not his father's my all-time favourite politician. If you don't know Ron Paul, check out Ron Paul. He's great. But here's Rand Paul, who is a Republican senator. He's more conservative than his father. His father's far closer to me in alignment than his son. If ever there was any doubt as to who bears responsibility for the COVID pandemic, Biden's pardon of Anthony Fauci forever seals the deal. As chairman of the Senate of Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, I will not rest until the entire truth of the cover-up is exposed. Fauci's pardon will only serve as an accelerant to pierce the veil of deception. Ignominious, Anthony Fauci will go down in history as the first government scientist to be preemptively pardoned for a crime. Now that tells you an awful lot.
Preemptively pardoned, that's right, because he's not accused of a crime.
He's never been accused of a crime yet.
But Biden just.
But Biden's going, oh, just in case these guys start coming for you, we better cover your ass.
So we better do a pre-pardon pardon.
We pardon. And you know, during that whole COVID fiasco,
I know some people who've got treated like that in local government and
locally here, yeah, no doubt. No doubt, people were treated appallingly through that whole period, and I can comfortably say that I told them.
No, I mean like just getting a little bit of a rub of
preemptive pardoning. Let's go. Listen, I'm not going to be preemptively or post-emptively pardoning anybody. If it needs to be said, it'll be said. Another little thing relative to Anthony Fauci, who, as far as I'm concerned, is an absolute criminal and should be in jail. That would be probably too kind, but you know, jail will do for that dead shit. He is. I had people say to me, "Oh, we didn't know he was in jail." He's not.
No.
He hasn't even been charged with a crime yet, although he should. Joe Biden has come out and pardoned him, knowing full well
what he's done,
what he has done, but also that.
And when that is exposed,
if Trump follows through, and I keep saying if he follows through, if he doesn't, I'll be the first one to go, "Oh, you bullshit artist." But if he follows through, Fauci's in a lot of trouble one way or the other. And if Rand Paul goes through with his investigations, and the court of public opinion's got to sway. There's too many people, the lies, the cover-ups. You know, he's come out and he's admitted the masks were a waste of time. He's come out and, you know, Chinaman aid a bat. Oh, hang on, there's a wet market. Oh, it just opens. I've been funding illegal research around the corner. Oh, well, it didn't happen. Well, maybe it happened. Look, I wasn't really there. Yeah, I did pay for it. Absolute scumbag. Yeah. And how many people did he kill? Not just with the COVID shit, because I know some people think COVID's imaginary.
With the
I consider 100% COVID to be real. I consider it to be man-made. And bet your ass it killed an awful lot of people, pushed a lot of people over the edge with those comorbidities and elderly. I don't think it did diddly dick to you or I, really. If you got it, you had it was cold, it was a flu. But the people that it hurt were the vulnerable, without a doubt. And let's be fair, the mRNA vaccines have been a disaster, and the Supreme Court is going across the world is going to chew these people up over time, particularly now.
And you've also got to take some time out to consider the people. And there seems to be more and more claims of some really serious side effects from the vaccines. And I think as this stuff plays out,
and all these wankers that had, you know, I've had my COVID shot. You're welcome. Listen, you arrogant dickheads, you were tricked. You were manipulated. And the fact that you were so silly and arrogant to turn around and go, "You're welcome." Some of you guys I got no sympathy for when you find out the amount of damage that's actually.
It was maximum sheeple. It was maximum brainwashing. It was
the most intimidating thing humanly possible.
So someone to stand on the other side of that equation and actually try and navigate through the space and make sensible decisions. There was so much peer pressure. There was so much community pressure. There was so much societal and even family pressure.
Family pressure. I mean, do you remember the ads? How do you deal with non-vaccinated relatives at Christmas?
You can't go to the hospital to see one of your relatives unless you're vaccinated. You can't do this. You can't do that. Yeah. It was arm twisting.
And well, it was bullying, it was manipulation, it was intimidation, it was coercion, and it was everything that you see government ads that run talking about domestic violence. It was everything that they say there is really bad. They did it to everybody for 4 years.
Yes.
You know.
And back to that, and then we've still got all the economic consequences of it. We've still got all the distortion of these markets.
The whole world's on its head. It hasn't balanced out yet, not even close. And you've got this absolute dead shit, Anthony Fauci, right in the middle of it.
But like I say, hopefully
belongs in jail.
Well,
fuck that guy.
But the whole thing is just
or if you're not going to put him in jail, lock him down at my place for a couple of weeks.
And the idea of, like I say, of the pre-pardon pardon.
Yeah, fuck. Does he get more guilty than that?
Yes.
You know, what a scumbag.
For something you haven't done.
Another Trump policy that I kind of am going, we need to do this here. President Trump has just, and now here's the thing. If you ever want to go back and look through a lot of my policies, you can actually go back to when Senator David Leyonhjelm used to do an alternative budget for Australia every year in the Australian Financial Review. David was the guy, I guess, introduced me to the policy side of all this, mentored me in a lot of ways. He used to do an alternative Australian budget every year. So the budget would come out, the opposition would go, well, that's all wrong. David would do an analytical breakdown of where he would save money. One of them is in foreign aid.
Yes.
Foreign aid's bullshit, where the poor people of a rich country, i.e. most of us, pay for the rich people in a poor country to live better. That's what foreign aid is. It's just a transfer of wealth in that way. Now, President Trump has just enacted a 90-day pause on all foreign aid. During this period, all foreign aid programs will be reviewed to ensure they align with American interests, with only those meeting this criterion being continued. Now, that is exactly what we need to be thinking about here. Foreign aid, we can cut the absolute guts out of it. Why are we paying these people?
No, but just to that end,
yep.
And a lot of this occurs. Are you happy with, say, China funding a port build in Port Moresby in New Guinea?
No, I'm not. But if
they come along and say
that's a big part of the problem that we've got is this pay to play, and the money manipulates the whole world. Would I rather the Americans have?
Wasn't there something with the Solomon Islands recently where China offered a fairly big carrot and Australia had to step up to the plate?
We had no choice.
The Solomons were going to go the other way.
Absolutely. And this is a big part of this global politics. It's bloody hard to navigate. But to turn around and go, hang on a minute, who is aligned with us if we're sending our people's money, right, to a degree? And it sounds harsh because it can be very harsh. I actually don't have a problem with
the world is harsh.
I don't have a problem with the welfare card. People go, you're a libertarian. How can you tell people what to do with their money? It's not their fucking money. So if you're on a welfare card, no, I don't want you spending it on gambling.
Yeah.
I want you spending that on having a shower, having a shave, and getting a fucking job. You know, like, it's not your money.
Yes.
So I look at it, you know, people think that's a bit hypocritical because I shouldn't be telling people what to do. But if you're spending my money, bet your ass I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And I look at it similarly with this sort of thing. Who do we want there? Well, okay, if you're going to be America, we're not quite big enough to make it that, you know. But if you're American, you're throwing trillions of dollars around the globe. I would expect a certain amount of compliance. I'm your daddy. I'm paying your bills. You will do as you're told.
Well,
that's how China does it. That's how we're sort of doing it. If we're giving money to Papua New Guinea with a football team, we're obviously doing that because we want to own them to some degree. Now, they would never say own them, but that's what it is. We're
currying favour.
Currying favour and a vested interest in these countries. And that's what happens with all this foreign aid. It's not actually about helping poor people. It's not about solving any problems.
No.
It's a big...
And as you say, it's a bit like the US military aid that was granted to the Ukraine. It goes straight to a US munitions company who build a heap of bombs
and little black people, a little white people, a little Arab people, a little whatever people get killed by all these weapons while they're making a shit ton of dough, and all these political players.
Joe Biden says, I've just given $500 million to the Ukraine.
Yeah.
No, you just gave $500 million to American munitions factories who then ship the shit.
To kill little Ukrainians and little Russians or big ones too.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, it's just, it pisses me off because it's disingenuous. Foreign aid doesn't aid the foreign country.
No.
It's a transfer of wealth to either warmonger or curry favour or control.
One of the International Monetary Fund tricks was always to fund infrastructure projects in third world countries.
Yep.
And they would engage US firms to build said infrastructure.
Of course.
And of course,
and you'd have to hire a percentage of locals just so you could be seen to be participating.
In order to get the deal done, the son of the leader or his family or his family or his family or his family would all get cushy jobs on the project.
Of course. It's just gangster shit. Mafioso stuff. Watch The Sopranos. And where you've got Tony Soprano, think America.
Yes.
When you've got Paulie Walnuts, think fucking Ukraine. You know, like whatever. It's the same shit. It's just packaged differently.
Yes.
So foreign aid, I'd love to cut it, or at least be honest about it and just say, look, as Australians, we've decided that we're going to buy an interest in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
It's a military strategy. We want to be great friends with them. And to do that, we need to financially manipulate them into compliance with us until somebody comes along with a bigger checkbook.
Yes.
And that's unfortunately part of the game. But the whole foreign aid, as it's advertised, is complete bullshit. Does my head in. We pulled out of the Paris Accord. When I say we, I mean Donald and I. So I'm pretty sure I did send him a few emails and said, listen, these are a few things you need to do. No, I didn't do that. I should have done that. He's listening anyway. Boxes. He's already getting through the boxes, you know, like
he's hit the ground running. He's having a fat time.
Oh, mate. And I'll tell you, Ross Albright's out. Now, Ross Albright did a bit of shady shit, but he's also in that whistleblower space.
He's not associated with the
Silk Road. He was involved in.
No, it was the Albright that was the Speaker of the House, or
no. Ross Albright's he's ended up
different.
He was doing some shady shit, you know, and running a heap of internet kind of whatevers, and there was a heap of stuff. Sort of, I was not going to say exactly like Assange, but kind of similar stuff. And they threw 2 life sentences at the guy. He didn't kill anybody. You know, you get 2 life sentences because he basically told some stories that weren't supposed to be told.
I know a fellow like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, Trump's walked in, rang his mother, big tweet, Albright, you're out. Yeah. Which I'm hoping that'll follow on with it. Assange, if you want to come over and have a beer, mate, you'll be right now. Don't worry about it. You're cool. Everything's sweet. That's significant.
Trump is again another individual who has faced the wrath,
the persecution of the mob,
of the old media.
Yeah.
And how has he weathered that storm? He's weathered it via the new media.
Yes. Look, absolutely he has.
So
by effectively doing the sort of things we're doing, just on a far bigger scale and far better funded, of course.
And they can buy companies.
We can buy companies. They'll just be far smaller companies.
But like I say, so he does get it. He gets it.
He's been on the wrong side of it.
Yes.
He knows what it feels like. You know, you got to remember that when they all thought he was going to be a Democrat, they loved him. And it was only when he went, hang on a minute, some of this is some bullshit. I'm not signing up for that. Now, and again, I was skeptical of Trump on a lot of topics. So far, I'm kind of going, fuck, I don't think he's taken a wrong step yet. Mind you, he's only been there for a few days, but he's hit the ground running. His team's strong as shit. The January 6 riders, they're all out after being in jail for. Was it all peaceful protesting? Not really, but when you look at the lay of the land there, they certainly didn't deserve that much jail time for protesting a result that I still think it was stolen. In hindsight, I think the fact that they stole it was the best thing in the world.
Well, when you see the way even they behave on the way out the door and the absolute disregard they've got for anything, even approaching integrity,
none.
Then you know that there's
just none.
Without any proof, but there's very much just a taint of it, isn't there?
I wouldn't trust most of these people feeding the goldfish, and they're running the country. Tell me how Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi got so wealthy. No. People want to go, Trump, he's a shyster, and he had a university kind of concept that failed, and that was his money. Yeah. Obviously, he had clients, and some of them lost money. I invest in shit sometimes, and we go, fuck, well, that hurt. Or other times you go, that was a good run, well done, you know. And that's the same thing. If you invest in a famous guy's school, did you learn anything from it? I don't know. Was it worth it? Maybe, maybe not.
I think you always got to pay for your education.
There's two ways to pay for it too.
Yeah.
But you
So
turn around and you look at
if you invest in a opportunity and you follow that process through, and then for whatever reason it fails, you've still gained knowledge
and experience, and you might have met some contacts, whatever the case may be.
Yes, that's right. And if you then leverage that new knowledge into the next investment,
but when you've got people like Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, the Clinton crime family, and the rest of these clowns,
and we've
they're Mitch McConnell and they're on the Republican side as well.
On and on it goes.
They're so ingrained in this shit that. How did you I'm not sure what the going rate is for a politician in the US, but in Australia it's about 180, 190 grand a year for a base level elected state or federal member. So I'm assuming it'll be somewhat comparable in the US. If you're 180 grand a year, how do you become a multi-millionaire unless you're playing bullshit games and taking backhanders and doing corrupt shit or manipulating the market?
Yes.
Oh, we're going to bring in a heap of green regulation here and we're going to put subsidies over there. Husband, can you go and buy 50 million shares in our holding company? It's going to go well, we think, maybe. Right, push that law through, and then it happens. What a magic! That's insider trading. If you're a rugby league player, because I know a lot of people are in tune with how it works. If you're a player if you're Zach Lomax and you're playing for the Parramatta Eels and you start betting against the Parramatta Eels, you go to jail.
Yes.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah. It's bullshit.
But because they're the lawmakers, they get away with it.
Match fixing on a different scale and in a different corner, and they're all fucking untouchable, and it shits me to tears. Now they've all been pardoned. You'll notice Trump didn't pardon any of his family when he left previously. He could have done. He could no bullshit. And I think what's happened, to be honest with you, I think the Democratic Party has destroyed itself with where they're at. And I can actually see this going. Trump can obviously only have one term, but yes. I tell you what, I don't see this momentum stopping if everything keeps going well.
But even to that end, the good part is, in order for those people to become relevant, they have to actually produce something meaningful.
And I don't think it's in any of them.
No, but they have to.
There needs to be some results here, and Trump's rolling out result after result after result. Like I say,
so even at the worst case, they're going to improve.
Can't get any worse.
Yeah,
but who have they got? What talent pool is there? There's nothing.
No, but look, I'm not even going to.
Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, she could be there. She can do jigsaw puzzles and $10.
I'm not going to waste my time even thinking about that.
It could be fun.
We're just going to enjoy the early stages of this.
I did bring in the Trump cards just for fun, guys. And it's funny. Look, he has done some things that are so far very, very pleasing. I can't deny that. Our idiot Dutton come out the other day. Well, we won't be leaving the Paris Accord. That's because you're an idiot, Peter Dutton. Albo, we already knew you're an idiot. There's a few people who are still somewhat holding on to some hope that Peter Dutton isn't an idiot. And those people, Gina Reinhart's going to back Peter Dutton because he's the best of whatever the hell's left.
Because it suits Gina.
Well, it suits Gina, and she's got to try and own one of them. She might as well own.
But it suits Gina.
Yeah, of course. And I don't actually have a problem with Gina directly. Like, she's a gazillionaire and daddy inherited it. She grew it. Fair play.
I can't fathom how Chris Bowen can sit there with the policies that he's got, knowing who's the richest person in Australia. Gina Reinhardt, and she's a minor.
Yeah.
Who's next richest? Probably Twiggy Forrest.
Probably Twiggy, but Twiggy's now on the green train as well.
Yeah, but he's a minor. Yeah. So, mate, he's about as green as this shirt.
Oh, he's a hypocritical bullshit artist dickhead. We know that.
Yes. So, I'm green, whilst I make my money out of
coal.
Yes.
Fortescue stopped selling coal to China. He's bankrupt. Well,
but what does it take to convert the iron ore into steel coal?
It's all coal oil. It's all, as Trump said, drill, baby, drill.
Yes.
This stuff's got to come out of the ground. That's where wealth comes from.
But, there's been some conversations recently with some people around the Coolum Shire area, because there's some farming operations having trouble accessing the state roads with road trains.
Right.
And you've got to get a permit from the farm gate on the local roads to access and some people get the permits and some people don't.
Oh, right. Is it a pay-to-play situation, or what's the story?
No, the claim is that some of the road network can sustain it or can handle it and some can't. But there's no definitive list as to what can and what can't.
Yeah, of course not. We'll make it up as we go. We'll use our common sense, i.e. who do we like and who don't we like?
But to tie this all up, this whole thought, 99.9% of the income that is generated in Coolum Shire is generated off the back of agriculture.
Yeah.
And agriculture relies 100% on trucks to bring in the raw materials and to take out
take out the finished product. Yeah, of course. And I made the comment today at work. One of the boys, God, if Trump abolishes income tax, I'll think about moving there. I'm telling you, it'll be a thought. And if we don't follow suit, I'll definitely be thinking about it. I'll be like, this will be good. And I can hear a few weak-gutted individuals go, yeah, I hope this guy fucks off. But I'm telling you,
it wouldn't worry you, would it? What they were thinking.
Oh, no, I couldn't give a rat's ass. So I take great pleasure in knowing that I have an effect. And there are people out there who I couldn't pick out of a police line.
No, but if you're going to the US to enjoy
I'm not going to give a shit.
You're not going to look in the review.
But I do take a little bit of twisted pleasure in the fact that there are people who I do not know. I've got stalkers, I've got people on Facebook who follow every post and they, this. Mate, I don't even know who you are. I don't give a rat's ass. I'm going to say exactly what I think, and if you don't like me, I do not care. But how are we going to have the roads if we're the fucking roads? Have you seen the quality of the roads? That's also the argument for the fuel taxes and fuel levies is for the roads. So is it income tax for the roads or is it the fuel levies? Because we're being robbed twice for the same disability. Like, what the hell is the story? Because our roads are shit. Like, I can tell you quite comfortably that the majority of our roads in this country are absolute shithouse. So what are we paying all this extra tax for? And if the income tax is to cover it and the fuel tax is to cover it, clearly we're not managing our money very well, or we're all full of shit. Because the roads are rubbish, it's costing us a fortune, and the roads are rubbish.
And we're building a inland rail.
Oh, it's going to be a great big railway. Good.
But what's going to happen to it? Because everything's on trucks. Is it going to be the biggest white elephant?
Well, it's going to be a bigger white elephant than the NBN. Let's see how Snowy 2.0 goes. Governments are excellent at wasting money, pissing it up a wall.
Well, they're back spending more money on the NBN, trying to
fix it.
Well,
we made it. We buggered it up, and we spent, what was it, billions of dollars at the time on it because Malcolm Turnbull's an idiot.
They're well over $30 billion now. And I think it had a price tag of about 10 to start.
Yeah, and we got it all wrong.
But they are. What's really hurting them is the fact that Elon again.
Here's my Starlink. Don't worry about your stupid
here's
NBN.
My Starlink. It blows your NBN into the weeds. It might be a little bit more expensive, but it's reliable and it works.
Yeah. Look, and don't worry, I'm not far off going. I'm going to look into Starlink. I probably don't need it, but I might just do it anyway.
I've got an NBN connection, and it does less speeds than my old.
Than your previous ADSL modem type thing when you had the little toggle thing you could shove in your computer. It worked.
The old ADSL one, it was hardwired back through the telephone exchange.
And while we're bashing on telecommunications, how's your phone service since they turned off 3G? Because I can tell you, between Wagga and Tamora's service was always pretty shitty. It's worse.
I imagine it is.
It's far worse.
Yeah. But as again, and this is the whole thing I keep coming back to, when you're 87% of Australia's population live within 50k of the coast, why would they put fucking phone towers out here?
I don't care.
No.
But in response, we also need to go. We don't care. And we're going to do what we want. And you can bash your shit up your ass.
Well,
and by the way, we're not sending any food into your supermarkets because these are the sort of idiots that think chocolate milk comes from brown cows.
Yes.
And that all farms should be stopped because it's causing climate change. And then when you say to them, well, where's your food? I don't get my food from farms. I get it from Woolworths.
Unfortunately.
They're so dumb it hurts my head.
But unfortunately, you've got a group of people who haven't got probably enough in reserve to be able to have any resistance.
Well, yeah, there's that.
They're so.
Well, they are beholden as well.
Yeah, they're so much on the treadmill that they can't stop for a nanosecond because they'll get absolutely thrown.
They'll get wiped out in minutes. Yeah.
The only way that you can have any meaningful resistance is if you create an alternative system whereby you can meet your own needs and you don't need their system.
Oh, and the sooner the better, you know.
Well,
like,
this is something that
it's just how do we get there?
No, but that's something that did spring up during COVID, and there has been a lot of people who've continued on that path of creating alternative
self-sustaining operations and lifestyles and off-grid and all that sort of stuff.
But even to the point of just food security.
Yep.
And people don't really take enough responsibility just for that. Now, I'm absolutely blown away at the moment by this, the amount of people who are being told to throttle down on the use of their electronic products and their heating and cooling and stuff like that. And here we are in Australia, which is absolutely energy wealthy.
Yeah.
And we've fucked it up to the point whereby
we should be an absolute energy superpower.
Yes.
And instead we're paying some of the highest power prices in the world.
And we've got to turn shit off because the whole grid's going to go down.
And we're so incompetent that we've allowed our coal-fired power stations to become
it doesn't matter.
They're so dilapidated.
It doesn't matter. They just haven't. They haven't
maintained them because that's right. They've allowed them to become
the transition.
Of course they have.
Yes.
And it's a stupid transition anyway. But the fact
regardless,
the fact that they've just gone, well, we're not going to spend any money on this because we're all going to have grain next week. We're going to be living on windmills, and then they've gone, oh shit, this isn't working. Oh crap, what are we on? Oh well, they're buggered. We can't reboot them. They're so broken that it's not worth rebooting it. They need a good kick in the ass, and I think as the country
this
gets
is
worse and worse in certain areas.
I spoke to someone who's a very sensible, intelligent person who's got a good paying job, who was considering putting an off-grid installation, power installation, on their residential property in Temora.
Yep.
Because they've got concerns about the stability of the grid going forward.
And I think they'd be correct and wise to do so.
But isn't that ridiculous in this day and age, when we are supposed to be evolving and going forward technologically, and we are absolutely on a fast train backwards?
I try not to go down too many rabbit holes on this program and keep it relatively mainstream. But when you look at it...
No, but this isn't a tinfoil hat. This is what
I'm saying. Yeah. I honestly believe that on the next layer of this shit, it's a push for this socialism shit, where we just become so dependent. We can turn your power off whenever we feel like it, and you will be compliant. You look at the smart cities that they're planning, and they all rally onto one, onto two, onto the other.
What we've lost is the ability. Like, if you're going to have a boxing match, you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
Okay. Even Mike Tyson got hit.
Yes.
Muhammad Ali got hit. They were good at it, but they got hit.
Absolutely.
So you can't resist without some pain. People want to sit there and, viva la resistance. Oh, no, it hurts. Comply.
Yeah.
That was nothing more obvious and more telling about the society we live in was demonstrated to me. I was so disappointed in the way that Australians accepted the imposition of a lot of the COVID protocols.
Absolutely.
And I don't see, I have little hope that
that's going to change any time soon. They could turn around and put everyone on lockdown tomorrow. As long as they gave them enough bread and water to not die, they'd happily take a knee and bend to Lord Albo or Lord Dutton or whichever dickhead's running the show at the time.
And that's what concerns me.
And then they'd have the audacity to look at some prick like me going, well, hang on, this is bullshit. We could do better. We deserve better. And they go, he's a bit mad.
Oh,
no,
we've got to vote.
My dad's dad was a national, so they're obviously going to look after us. They're all socialist, communist pricks.
Well, how much more socialist can you get? We've just bought into an airline today.
I don't want our government buying anything.
We just bought. So
I don't want them in private
You're
business.
a co-owner. I wonder if they're going to.
Yeah, do we get shares at the end? Oh no, well you get to have a plane. So I don't fly anywhere. Like in the scheme of things, I go on a flight once every 2 years, maybe if that. Yeah. I can have a rat's ass. And if Rex Airlines goes out of business, a couple of things. They need to streamline their business, improve their business. Maybe their service isn't fucking valid. Not my problem. Why is it my problem? Why do I now own a share in this thing? And I haven't. Did you get a share certificate?
No.
I didn't get shit. Neither did you. So we don't really own it. No. They've just used our money to buy it.
Yes.
And that's
what I think there might be. Is there a federal election coming up?
Oh no! I know. Look, there is, because if you'd seen the interesting personalities that have rung my phone or contacted me in the last week, it's been quite funny.
Yeah.
We'll go into that in another week.
Wrap it up.
Now, next week, Katie Fentanyl has confirmed Lady Liberty's going to be joining us.
I'll make sure I'm well rested.
So you'll be well rested.
Ready to go.
For everybody else, I hope you've had a pleasant evening while we've been a fairly American driven tonight, but I suppose let's be fair, that is the biggest news in the world at the moment. And
it's probably going to have the most impact.
It's going to have a massive impact on everything. And from my perspective, I think it's great. So far, so good. End the woke bullshit, end the socialist crap, and all this Marxist rubbish. And if Australia doesn't cotton on, well, it's time for us to start revolting appropriately.
And the only thing I will say, regardless of what you think of Trump, when he's around, something happens.
Oh, absolutely. He certainly isn't sitting there taking a paycheck and doing bugger all. He's making an impact.
What he's about.
So, ladies and gentlemen, do the like, share, subscribe thing, whatever else you're supposed to do. Thank you for the support. Still coming through thick and fast.
Yeah, that's good.
I know. I get messages all week. You're on this week. You're on the. Hey, we're back now. We're back.
It's growing.
It's growing every week. It's growing. The interest level's growing. And the people.
We're going to have a pretty good guest next week. There's going to be a lot of consideration of these alternative views and.
Yeah, absolutely. I suspect next week I'll get drowned out by discussions around firearms. I suspect. Katie's big firearm liberty activist,
an advocate for firearm owners, and she's really tied up in the West Australian stuff at the moment because they really have put some draconian laws in over there. Yeah. And of course, it's just a testing ground for the other laws in the other jurisdictions. So yeah, it is a battleground.
And check her out. Kate Fentanyl, Lady Liberty. She does a heap of stuff. She's very, very active. We might even talk about our soon-to-be new wine
and
brand.
The last thing you want to be is probably a person who's saying, "Oh well, our laws are better than theirs at the moment."
Yeah, no. Ours is a shit show, and it's only going to get worse unless we start actually fighting back.
I think we just have to protect our own rights and just not look. There's a lot of sensible arguments that'll support the things that Kate puts forward and all the other responsible gun owners put forward. They just get drowned out.
They get drowned out and bullied out and harassed out and. Of course, but that one thing happened over there. Yeah. Okay, and that did happen. But this whole playing down to the lowest common denominator.
But as we've discovered, even in Australia, since that episode, and since the gun ownership levels have plummeted and the laws have ramped up, a disaffected individual can still find ways to inflict.
They'll still find a gun. They'll still find a knife. They'll still set fire. They'll run somebody over with the car. They'll set fire to your shop.
They'll run 10 people over with the car.
Well, that's right. If you want to do that sort of damage, you can do it. That's more a mental health thing, I think. We need Starlink, mate.
Yeah, but purely just to put it down to the actual method.
Yeah,
is I think it's a little bit unfair.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. So, ladies and gentlemen, follow us on Anthony Irvine Stand Up for Tomorrow. I've got my Dean McRae Self-Determination page. Check out Lady Liberty. Everyone have a great week. We appreciate you tuning in with this hour and a half on a Thursday night, and everybody have a great week.
Catch you.